It's Monday night. We are live from Space Coast Podcast Studios right here in Melbourne, Florida, and this is the Melbourne Mayor Monday Show. So here we go. It is a beautiful Monday night. Mayor, it's always a great time to be in Melbourne. What do you say?
Absolutely. You know, Melbourne Mayor Monday, and that's what makes Monday special. I mean, we know we all hate Mondays, but, you know, I figure we lighten it up and probably come on our worst day and talk about something. So I love our podcast. Jesse Hall, you're the man. Thank you for producing this. Huh?
You're too kind, Mayor.
No, thank you. No, seriously, thank you for producing this.
Yeah.
You know, we get a lot of, as in the mayor's office, you get a lot of questions, you get a lot of communication coming at you, and you know, a lot of times it's good just to put this stuff out and try to get some interaction with our residents and kind of answer the questions. And you know, a lot of times you see some of the same questions over and over, which is okay. But a lot of times, you know, you want some of the experts to answer those questions. And we have a great expert tonight. You know, we have my friend, Dr. Leesa Souto with the Marine Resources Council. We're going to talk about a very hot topic tonight, which is the Indian River Lagoon and the recent report card that came out. I will say before we move into that, you know, City of Melbourne, me and my council were very set on trying to do as much as we can with the Indian River Lagoon. We have issues there. We know we have issues, and you know, it's going to take a while to get this right. But I believe, you know, through our, you know, some of our experts have said we'll get there. It's just, you know, it's a lot of changes and all that's got to happen. So I'm going to turn over real quick to Dr. Souto, and she can tell us about herself and about the Marine Resources Council. Hey, good evening, Doc.
Thank you so much for having me, Mayor. It's great to be here, and thank you, audience out there, for listening in. My name is Leesa Souto. I'm the Executive Director of the Marine Resources Council. We're a charitable organization that has been dedicated to bringing this community together to unite for our coastal community, our precious Indian River Lagoon, for over 30 years. So we have been your lagoon organization for decades, and we appreciate everything that you're doing every day to help us bring our lagoon back to health.
Yeah, and you know, last week Jesse and I came up, my good friend Wes Morrison up in Cape Canaveral, the mayor there, Mayor Morrison. He, you know, you were up there presenting, and I noticed you do a lot of presenting. You talk, you're going everywhere, and a little bit about the lagoon. When we talk about the lagoon, we're talking about multiple counties, correct?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we cover, MRC covers the entire lagoon. A lot of people don't realize it covers almost 40% of Florida's east coast.
Wow.
It goes all the way from Volusia County down to Palm Beach County, 157 miles long. It includes the 6 inlets, and, you know, really hundreds of watershed acres that all drain into the Indian River Lagoon. It's a huge area. It goes inland all the way to Orlando.
And you know, what's cool is when you go, you see your building right just south of Melbourne, the big pretty light blue building there on the water, and that's your place, right?
We are so fortunate to be at the Lagoon House. It's located in the city of Palm Bay, a mile south of the Melbourne Causeway. A lot of people think it's a restaurant. They see that big blue building and they're like, oh, is that a restaurant? We actually thought about making it a restaurant at one point, but no, that's our office, and we have a beautiful education center there, and we're, you know, just reopening now to the public. We do our summer camp there. We've got all kinds of youth and adult presentations there. We're turning it into a sustainable campus. We're showing everybody how to do LID as a demonstration, and also we're doing alternative shoreline restoration projects where we're using all inert materials to build oyster reef and no plastic.
Yeah, and I noticed in the last up here in Canaveral last week, you also do camps for the children, right?
Right. Yeah. This summer we'll be doing a Lagoon Castaway Camp. We're actually doing we do 4 different sessions. It's for youth age 8 to 13. So we do 2 different groups. We'll break the kids up into age groups, and then we've got 2 sessions where they're actually going to do like Survivor, you know, where you have to like try to figure out how you would survive if you were a castaway in the lagoon. So that should be really fun for the kids.
Oh, that's pretty neat. That's something for, and also it teaches our children the more about the lagoon and the importance of the sanctuary. So I saw that. I'm like, that's pretty neat. You're throwing that in as well. So you guys do a lot there. Tell me about your board and really how you operate, etc. Can you tell me more about that?
Sure. Well, we're a nonprofit, so we have a board of directors that oversees our kind of make sure that we're fiduciarily responsible. Okay. So they're our oversight board. And they also assist with fundraising and all that kind of stuff. We have board members. We have 18 board members. They range from, aides of congressmen to retired engineers and stormwater people and all different types of people on the board of directors.
Okay, excellent. And as we move forward also, Doc, I want to thank you because I remember a while back, you remember when the city of Melbourne, I was actually a councilman at the time, we were having the water issues, and that's one thing we were talking about, the biosolids issue, and you were definitely out there pushing that, look, something needs to be done with our waterways. You are an amazing advocate for not only our lagoon but our waters, and that's your background, and it was kind of refreshing to see experts that are really feet on the ground. So I want to thank you for that. Any issues that I've seen regarding fish kills or whatever, it's terrible, but you're out there. I mean, you're and your team.
Thank you, and I want to thank you because you wouldn't know I was out there if you weren't out there. So it's great to have somebody like yourself in a position of leadership that's taken such an active role in finding out and troubleshooting the issues. I was so impressed, Mayor, when we had that. You probably don't recall, but there was a tiny fish kill in the Melbourne Harbor of anchovies, thousands, tens of thousands, and they hit the news, and you called me immediately, and you're like, do you know what happened? Like, you wanted to make sure it wasn't something the city had done, and it wasn't. So I really respect you for that, because that's not something you hear every day. And I always welcome new elected officials and people in leadership. Once you get into office, if you want to know what's going on with the lagoon, by all means, reach out to me. I'm nonpartisan, and I'm a scientist, so I'll just kind of say it as it is, and bring you up to date on some of the issues. So I welcome that opportunity, especially for people just coming into the area or into office. I welcome the chance to answer questions you may have.
Well, when you come into office, even like the mayor's role, there's so much coming at you, whether it's roads, it's bridges, it's Parks and Rec. There's so much communication, and the lagoon is forefront in everybody's mind, and you really need the experts in your ear. And it's really my policies and what I'm trying to do and bring the city into low impact development. We'll get a little bit. We're going to have Chris on next week to discuss. You guys work with him on low impact development to kind of get an idea of Pineapple Avenue. Low impact development is it's multiple stages, but one is bringing the water and instead of pushing it to the lagoon, trying to get it to go down where it is. Permeable pavers, flower boxes, stuff that keeps the water from going down the lagoon and flushing all the debris. Today I signed a letter to Governor DeSantis. We have a Spring Creek water quality project. Me and my council, we are really big on this. This is a massive project. This is almost a $2.6 million project. It's going to be around the O'Galley area, Spring Creek. It's going to be part pipe replacement, baffle boxes, and fortunately, State Representative Randy Fine, Senate Majority Leader Debbie Mayfield, they were pushing this. I know it was Mr. Fines, I believe Bill, but the state has $1.3 million of money that they're approving. It looks like it's going to be signed. So the ability to have this kind of big kind of project, because you and I both know, and you kind of were educating even me last week on the nitrogen and phosphorus. Kind of tell us what that does and what the baffle box does. Would you go into that?
Oh, I'd be happy to. So, and the report card, and I'll talk about it in reference to the report card. In our report that MRC does every year, at least for the past 4 years, we've taken the state's monitoring data, which is really focused on nitrogen, phosphorus, chlorophyll A, which is a measure of algae, and turbidity, which is how clear or unclear the water is. Those 4 water quality parameters, and then seagrass are the 5 things that the state measures. So the state's whole pretty much water quality improvement program is around nitrogen and phosphorus. Mm-hmm. So that's what everybody monitors for. And the reason that they're so important is because they are nutrients that feed everything, and they feed algae. So when there's too much nitrogen and phosphorus going into the water, it dissolves, it adds it to the water column. Now it's dissolved nutrients, and what likes to take up dissolved nutrients? Algae does. So all of that nitrogen and phosphorus is fueling these algae blooms. And then once they start, like we had our first, what we called the super bloom in 2010, We had no idea what a super bloom was yet. So that was the what we thought was a huge algae bloom. We've had so much bigger blooms since then. But once they start, they cycle. And you kind of like, it's almost like it's gone into a new system and they kind of feed each other. So that's where we are. We're in a super bloom status where we're getting algal blooms every year that are going for longer than they should. They're enduring through the winter, which is very unusual. And they're all super blooms now. We've got so many new species, like the algae scientists are all excited. Their life's work is coming to realization. They can identify all these new species of algae in the lagoon. Not good for us, but great for the algae scientists. So that's why nitrogen and phosphorus are so important, because they feed algae. Algae blocks the sunlight, so turbidity goes up. And now the seagrasses cannot grow because they don't get any sunlight, because the water is too dark, too cloudy, and everything is being blocked. And you all, if anybody has been here for any length of time, you've seen the lagoon flip all different colors. It's gone from like mocha latte shades of brown to like bright green, almost like a seaweed milkshake, to, notice it's all food with me, to like different levels of reds and oranges. I don't know what food that goes with, but these are all like certain types of algae or zooplankton, or they're blooming in the bajillions of cells, and they're just they're in a cycle now. So we're getting these algae blooms. That what we found in the report card, if I could continue.
No, it's you're on.
Is
you got to continue. You're stuck here. It's like Hotel California. You can check out, but you can never leave.
And there's no wine.
Right.
So what we found this year was actually a little bit of good news, in that the water quality score throughout the lagoon in every single region has improved. In some cases, it's gone up like 25 points. Water quality has improved. In other areas, small increments, but improvement across the board. And it's because the water clarity has gotten so much better the past year. So now we're just kind of hoping that the seagrasses are going to come back, because even though water quality improved from like 2017 to 2020, we didn't see any seagrass improvement. So we're not sure. We think maybe something else besides the lack of sunlight, which is what explained the loss of seagrass. Sunlight is coming back to the bottom. It's able to reach the bottom because the water's clearer, yet the seagrasses aren't coming back. So what else is preventing the seagrasses from coming back? That's kind of where we are.
Okay, interesting. So if you could, put up what she had last week, the graph. That was very interesting.
Oh, there it is.
The water quality and habitat quality scores. Go over that. That was interesting on that. And again, you kind of touched on that with the seagrass, but how they're kind of in sync.
Sure. So what you're looking at on the screen right now is the scores for water quality, which is an average of those four parameters: nitrogen, phosphorus, turbidity, and chlorophyll A. And the scores and that's the blue line. The solid blue line is the score over the 26 years of data. Okay. And then the reddish or orange colored line is the scores for seagrass over the same time frame. Actually, there's a couple more years of seagrass data. And then the dotted lines are the trend. So if you were to put a line like an average through those scores, that's what it would look like. And so what you can see, there's a couple things. Is one, you can kind of see that the two relate to each other, that when the blue line goes up, the red line goes up, and then when the blue line goes down, the red line goes down, except that since 2016 or so, the red line just keeps going down, and the blue line is kind of going up and down, but heading in the up direction. And that a lot of that improvement in water quality has to do with clarity specifically. So water clarity is improving, and yet seagrasses aren't returning. And the trend lines really tell the story. And what's shocking is that when you look at the water quality trend, it's pretty flat. Yeah. It doesn't really do anything. It's kind of slightly going down. If you can, there's a gradient to it. You can't even see it. You'd have to do the
marble test.
The equation to figure it out. But there is one. It's slightly going down, but you can easily see the decline in seagrass trend. You can easily see that line is precipitously going down. Okay. So that's the issue. That's the phenomenon we're trying to figure out.
Now, and of course that's in correlation with the manatee deaths, I'm sure, because the grass. I mean, what do you feel with that in the correlation? I mean, that's probably a tough question.
Oh, well, the correlation. Well, there's not that the population data is not on here to really correlate. Right. But I'm going to talk about that for a second. There's one more point I'd like to make about this.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a green line that's not appearing. But up there at the score of 80 is where the healthy target is. So what we're actually comparing with the report card is the state's healthy targets of what those values should be and the actual condition. So
that's at 80, right? That
we
should be about 80.
set the target at 80. So we said, well, if you're meeting the state's criteria, it's a B, because it can be better than that, because it's always a compromise with any kind of regulatory. So you can see that even in this graph, there were times what we call the mid-aughts, like 2006, 2007, that across the lagoon we were exceeding standards. We were exceeding our seagrass standards. We were doing great in the mid-aughts. We were like patting ourselves on the back.
Right.
Mission accomplished. We're done. And then 2010 is when we got the first super bloom. So now I'm going to get to your question about the manatees.
Yeah.
In 2010, also here, we started seeing our first our marine mammal mortality events were occurring. And it happened both with manatees and dolphins, and they were dying of a toxicity. It wasn't like it is now. So back then it was dolphins, manatees, and diving birds. And you guys remember that? Like the diving birds were like literally falling out of the sky. They were just like dying instantly and falling at the shore. We're like, what is going on with all these animals? That was the super bloom cyanobacteria. It's very toxic algae.
Right.
And so we suspect that there was toxicity from that. Okay. So since then, we lost 97% of the seagrasses in the lagoon. So everything is starving to death. And it's not. So now the manatee mortality event is about starvation. They started starving last winter as temperatures drop. Things can survive, if you've got low body weight or your, calorie intake is low, you do okay in the summer when it's warm. Then when you get chilled is when you start to experience loss of life. So last, winter, sadly, in Brevard County alone, I think we lost over 300 manatees. And this winter, since between January and the end of February, we'd already lost 300 manatees in Brevard.
Wow.
So it's actually worse this year in our region than it was last year. But statewide, it's not as bad. So it's not getting as much press coverage as last year. Because we're not, last year, as I predicted, we lost 1/6 of the manatee population in the state. So, like, how many years can we lose 1/6 of the population? Yeah,
it's terrible. I mean, that's when you hear about that, it's just, shake your head and you think, what can we do? Well, I know that we are doing things, and I know that, we decided as Brevard County to tax ourselves with the 1/2-cent sales tax, and I know the projects there's a lot of projects. I think we're up. We're probably near 100 projects that are completed and are being worked on and in engineering. So with all these projects getting done, it's just unfortunately going to take time. What's your thought on that? Do you believe that?
That it's going to take time? I think restoration takes a long time. I think that our estuary is very resilient, and it's managed to maintain for a long time when it was being polluted.
Okay.
And then it flipped, and now it's going to take us a long time to flip it back. But I think it's perfectly possible, and it's just going to take some time, and we're heading in the right direction. And that's kind of my message, what you heard when I do the report card. It's keep doing what we're doing better, implement more, and then, just kind of stay the course. We do need to figure out a few things, like what is killing the seagrass. Mm-hmm. And it's not just the manatees. And yes, the manatees will eat it if they can find it. But, there's some real challenges there, so that's why we're planning a seagrass assembly to bring the best seagrass experts together in a room to kind of brainstorm, churn away on that. I mean, we've got issues bigger than any one entity can deal with. We've got to figure out not only how do we restore seagrass, how do we plant it, and how do we keep everything from eating it. And it's not just the manatees, it's the pinfish, it's the sea turtles, it's it's a 1,000 different organisms that eat the seagrass that then feed the rest of the food chain.
Right, absolutely. And now going into, one thing we'll talk about real quick on the baffle boxes. The baffle boxes are something that the city of Melbourne, we're really focusing on doing these baffle boxes. And they're multi-stages, they collect all the garbage. And the idea is to keep the water from just rushing from the lagoon, because all canals lead to the Indian River Lagoon, and everything's cleaned. It picks up the nitrous, the phosphorus. Our crews go out, they clean the baffle boxes. So we're getting a lot of these installed. The Spring Creek baffle box will be a real real big for the city of Melbourne. Again, I want to give a big shout out to my council, Mark LaRusso, Tim Thomas, Julie Sanders, Debbie Thomas. You guys are great. Yvonne Minus, Mimi Hanley. Thank you all for really stepping up on that. And that's something that's very important. And also the experts at the Marine Resource Council, because being in local government, you got to pick and choose where the money goes. And I think we're at all sirens are on for the lagoon. So yeah, definitely, I can't stress that enough. Now,
thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah, we've had some questions, and maybe if we try to answer, if anybody has any questions out there on the lagoon, we'll take questions. One of the questions we saw earlier is, why is the water cleaner down in Vero than it is here? That was a good question. Mm-hmm. What do you think? What do you think about that, Doc?
There's a lot of things that they're doing right in Indian River County. Well, first, this isn't necessarily something they've done, but let's just recognize they have way fewer people in Indian River County than most of the other counties. They've only got about 150,000 in the entire county, versus, we have 100,000 in just the city of Melbourne, right?
Yeah.
So, we've got way more people, which means way more pollution and way more stormwater. And we've got a section of the lagoon that's got an island right in the middle of it. So there's a lot of stagnation areas where water just settles, sits there, and doesn't flush out, so to speak. I hate to use the flush word. But Indian River they've done a couple things right. From the get-go, two of their main sources of freshwater inflow have got harvesting devices on them. So when you've got canals bringing in polluted water, it's good to cut off the algae and the floating vegetation before it ever gets to the lagoon. So they're doing that, which is fantastic. They're not spraying herbicides and letting it all die and sink to the bottom and rot like a lot of people are treating their canals. They're actually harvesting the vegetation out. That's removing all that nutrients out of the water. It's the best way to do it, is to get a vegetation to take the nutrients and then get the vegetation out. So that was a great thing. The other thing is, if you're a sailor or a boater and you go down the ICW and you look in Brevard, you're going to find seawalls on both sides. That's a huge energy problem we've got to deal with in Brevard County. And I'm talking about wave energy. It starts bouncing back and forth. So right now the seagrasses may not be coming back in Brevard because the bottom is too unsettled. Because the energy is going back and forth like this, and it's stirring up the bottom, and seagrasses cannot settle and grow if everything's moving down there. If you're in Indian River County and look on both sides, what do you see? Mangroves.
Yep, mangroves.
So they didn't rip out all their mangroves and put seawalls in. That was really smart of them. So that makes a huge difference. They've, of course, also got an inlet. We know that the inlet has a very, very localized effect, only about 5 acres, and that's according to Dr. Zarillo's model. And even after 2010 superbloom, they lost all their seagrass. So the inlet didn't save their seagrass, but their seagrass is coming back. So what are they doing differently? The other point about inlets is down at the farther south end of the lagoon, down at St. Lucie Estuary, where St. Lucie Inlet is, and the Jupiter Inlet, 2 inlets close to each other, very high energy. They don't have any seagrass. So they have great water quality, but they still have no ecology. So the inlet is not saving the seagrass down in St. Lucie. So inlets are not just they are not the solution. They are something. They do something, but they don't necessarily solve all of our water quality issues. So there are a lot of things they've done right in Indian River County. And like I said, population and the difference in the number of people that live there really is key to it. But the mangroves, some of their canal restoration activities that they're doing, now they're working hard on the septic to sewer conversion.
Yep, we're doing a lot of that now. The septic to sewer, the money is there for the septic to sewer.
Excellent.
Yeah, we're definitely doing that. Also, the mangroves, that's something that we need to focus on replanting. We really got to kick that in gear. You also hear some people talk about, doing, an oyster or something like that. What's your thought on that?
Doing oysters?
Yeah, oyster or clams or whatever. What's your thought?
I think that the more habitat we can get in the lagoon, the better. I think that it would be beneficial to do some scientific studies and evaluate the best locations to put those restoration projects.
Right.
I kind of feel like, a lot of people want just to, get work done and get, boots on the ground or whatever you want to call that, get some projects implemented. They don't want to wait for the science to direct it, so it becomes a convenience thing. Wherever it's convenient to put oysters, let's put them there. Okay, well, then what if they don't work? How do you know what killed them, right? So if you have a model or some kind of a study of viability, like where is it likely that oysters are going to survive, or I don't mean to pick on oysters, clams, sea squirts, whatever it is, seagrass. We're going to do one for seagrass for sure. So you do a model that gives you a map that says it's likely based on salinity, temperature, depth, blah, 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 seagrass is going to survive here. So then we plant it there. And it survives. Good, the model worked. If it doesn't, then we're like, hey, we tried all of this. It looked like it was supposed to survive. Why didn't it?
Right.
So if you at least have a hypothesis, right, you have something that you're testing it against, then you have a scientific question. You can see, did it work or did it not work?
Right.
And like just throwing stuff out there and then being like, they're all dead. Okay, next.
Yeah. and I noticed
it's very
too,
difficult.
And I noticed too what the Marine Resource Council does too. It helps get all the cities on board. You talk about the classes that you put on for the elected officials, to make the right decisions on low impact development. I mean, a lot of people when they get in office, they're very, they understand some stuff, but there's a lot more that goes on. And even with the lagoon, I mean, we're not all, biologists like you, Doc. And so the decision makers really have to be on to really make those changes. And one of the things, like the city of Melbourne, I mean, I when Chris came before us and talked about low impact development, it was kind of supposed to be a 3-minute speech, and I'm like, no, time out. You're going to get with our staff, and we're going to do this. We're going to get this right. We're going to make some changes, and we're going to follow. Satellite Beach works hard. I know, up in Canaveral works hard. They got amazing staff, and everybody's starting to get on board. And I think that's what we have to do. So.
Yeah, well, I thought it was great that, we did the Low Impact Development Conference.
Yep.
Was well attended. And then immediately afterwards, you called on Chris, who was at the conference, to come and talk to you in a very meaningful way about where can we implement projects in the city.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't, just like, oh, we're going to think about doing an ordinance or we're going to, move in that direction. It was like, bring in the guy who knows and have him tell us, look at what we're trying to deal with. What can we implement where? That was very decisive.
Well, and one of the things I've tried to do in Melbourne is you have to make changes. And a lot of times we have a great staff, but the staff goes by the book. And, hey, this is how we do things. When I got on council, murals wasn't even allowed, and that was changed. And so making those changes and no permeable pavers and stuff like that, that's being changed. And really, you have to kind of force it down staff and say, this is what the council wants. And I'm just very blessed because I got a supportive council that says, hey, these are the experts here, and government is kind of old and musty, and this is what's really working. So again, I appreciate our partnership with the Marine Resource Council. To me, it's easy would be easy to put on something on social media. We did this project, and everything's great. But the reality, sometimes, if you want to be effective in office, you got to put the real report card out. I mean, that's a reality, and it really hurts me to look at this report card and say, this has got to change, and nobody likes it. And it's easy to throw insults out, and you get them too, Doc. And you get insults, and I'm shocked because your heart is gold when it comes to the lagoon. I mean, people have their own opinions, and everybody has an opinion. We're allowed to have one, but we just got to remember that we all have to work together, and we're not all right and we're not all wrong. So, but this kind of go down the report card with us, and as hard as it is to do this, I think it needs to be done.
Thank you, Mayor. And you bring up a really good point about low impact development and the staff. So the next one, so the first conference that we held back in October was just kind of presenting what it is and then bringing forth the resources and experts like Chris that people can tap. So here are some products, here are some people, here are some concepts, here's some language, here's an overview. Mm-hmm. The next one, and we recognize exactly what you're saying, that a lot of the limitation in implementing low impact development is in the city code or in the existing staff perceptions. So if it's about changing code, changing ordinances, or making the process changes to accommodate staff doing the right thing, then that needs to happen next. So we're doing that next. The next conference is about the same time. We're talking about October 2022. We'll bring Eben Bean, you remember him, from the University of Florida. He's got a tool that he is going to test out where people can self-audit their own land development regs. their own building codes, or you can hire a consulting firm or somebody. I don't know if MRC is going to get into that or not, but somebody to come in and do that for you, where you can use a toolbox that he and his team are creating that really makes it easy for any city or county, municipality, town to go through it and just check the boxes, going through their transportation corridor codes, their green infrastructure codes, their stormwater infrastructure, the land development regs, their zoning changes processes, and so on, to really be comprehensive in how do we truly accommodate a different way of building on the land that's going to reduce the amount of polluted stormwater from entering our estuary.
I hear sometimes, you people say, look, it's this development that is coming on. That the new development is responsible for the old lagoon or lagoon being damaged. I don't really necessarily agree with that. If you look at the regulations now, they're required to keep all the stormwater on site. You no longer can just push it into the lagoon. One of them is like, for example, the Margaritaville. If you think about the old marina with the old tanks and everything from US 1, when it rains, the streets look very good. They look clean. That's because everything just got shoved right down in the damn lagoon. I mean, that's being realistic, and that's being realistic on that. And that's why, these new developments and stuff like that, they have interest. They have financial interest to have a clean lagoon, because we all know that Margaritaville is no good if it's got a nasty, dirty lagoon. So, one of the things that we push is I want newer development that holds the storm water in, that is a partner in the lagoon, cleaning the lagoon. So you understand that.
I sure do. And getting, like you said, getting the rainwater into the ground where it lands.
Yeah.
Not piped off to a lot of those ponds only temporarily hold water. They have overflows. So the next rain event, that pond is now accumulated and probably created more nitrogen, and then now that's going to overflow. They actually enrich nitrogen. They do remove phosphorus, which is one of the things baffle boxes are really good at also. Baffle boxes are great at removing phosphorus. Nitrogen is always the hard little monster to deal with.
That's interesting. And if you look at, like, for example, this is the Spring Creek water quality project that we're doing. I mean, they're talking about this box will serve an area of 110 plus or minus acres.
Wow.
So we're talking about 110 acres in the city of Melbourne was done under the old regulations, you would say. So the stormwater regulations that are really caused the issues with the lagoon. 110 acres. This will serve that, and they're talking removing approximately 1,050 pounds per year of total nitrogen and 231 pounds of total phosphorus. I mean, that's a lot, and that's one baffle box. And we have other baffle boxes. We have right now over a dozen baffle boxes, and we have more. We have the Espanola, Cherry. This is a Spring Creek, Grant Place, Thrush, Sherwood. The Sherwood, we ribbon cutted that. That was a nice one because that's got the big rain pond in it.
That's the giant one, right?
No, actually, that's not the giant one. That's the one with the double rain pond. The giant one. The giant one. That one made national news, didn't it?
Oh yeah.
It was. I think you said you could see it from space. Wow. I don't know about all that.
I was teasing.
Well, maybe Elon can, but we definitely can. So these are just some of the things. The sewer. The septic to sewer conversion, the money's there. I know we're doing a lot of them right there on right off US 1. Those are being done. So let me ask you, Doc, if what would you tell if Joe homeowner, regular homeowner, said, what can I do as a homeowner to limit my impact toward the Indian River Lagoon? What would you tell them?
Oh, there's so many things.
We got time. Good.
We have time. So the easy one is stop fertilizing your lawn. Mm-hmm. That's the easy one.
But that's controversial. Everybody wants a green lawn.
Everything is controversial.
I know,
yeah.
right?
So stop and see what happens. It might still be green.
Right.
Yeah.
So at least stop. Just stop and see what happens.
Well, there is a moratorium on high nitrogen phosphate fertilizers that comes around every rainy season.
Yeah.
So if people were to just abide by that, they said that would definitely help, because you literally fertilize and the next day it rains during the rains, and it doesn't have time to even penetrate your soil, and it just wastes money. And not only that, but all that fertilizer goes straight to the lagoon. down your driveway, down the sidewalk into the storm drain, and
That was perfect.
yeah.
Thank you.
I've done some things. I'm not sure how much my input is going to be tolerated tonight. But I have lived on islands, including Sanibel, and there they have a lot of xeriscaping.
Yes.
Lots of shell lawn, sand lawn, rock lawn, paver lawn, like anything else but lawn. Even fake turf, like a little astroturf or something equivalent, and everybody kind of respects that. And on an island, when you're just like us, we have a good tourism industry, I believe. People want to fish and go to the river, boat on the river, go to the ocean, swim in the ocean. It's kind of like our our responsibility. It's our challenge to keep our coastlines and bodies of water nice and pristine for our visitors, and not only that, but generations.
Well, right. And I look at it as mayor. I grew up here. I remember growing up here in Sherwood Park, and I went Horse Creek right there. That's just south of Post Road, and that's when I've caught my first largemouth bass, and I was like 7 years old. But I remember I was scared to go in the lagoon because all the grass and all the creatures were in the lagoon. And as a kid, that the big fish there really probably wasn't. But I kind of look at it now and I go, it is my responsibility as mayor to get it back for our children and try to get it what it is. So you're definitely, and I promise you're going to see some aggressive policies out of Melbourne that mirror some of the other cities. Probably, hopefully, succeed them, and that we can definitely do something with the lagoon. Because if you look at the map, we're like dead center. We're kind of like stuck. We're dead center. We don't have an inlet. And really, if you look at the report card, it's about dead center where we are. And so we have to definitely do some on the homeowners. What else could you do besides that?
I've been encouraging people to just learn something new. Go to our website, savetheirl.org. There's a tab, at the top. What can you do? And there's a whole bunch of things. It kind of depends on how much time you want to spend and where you want to do your activities. So there's easy solutions about so just think about your yard as it being directly connected to the lagoon. Anything you do outside, pressure washing your car, applying chemicals, herbicides, pesticides, cleaning your roof, painting, anything that happens outside is going to end up washing off into the storm drain and going into the lagoon. So instead of washing your car on the driveway, wash it on your lawn. And now the soap is actually nutrients, and it'll soak into the lawn and fertilize your lawn. There you go. You don't have to fertilize your lawn. Just wash your car on it. Solve two problems at once.
Right.
Or if you can't get on your lawn or you don't want to do that, take it to a car wash. Just that soapy water going down the driveway, down the road, into the storm drain is all phosphorus. That's just nutrients going into the lagoon.
Are there better alternatives to soap? Are there environmental friendly soaps maybe to wash a car with?
Oh, there probably are, but they're just going to have something else in them.
Right.
Let me throw something at you, Doc. Put you on the hot seat a little bit. I remember last week during your presentation in Canaveral, when we had a good turnout there. You mentioned something about pumping water in. Do you recall that, about maybe an option of pumping water in? And I know you don't like to use the word flush, but to flush out the. Do you remember that?
I do.
Can you kind of go into that?
Okay. So what the mayor's talking about is the FIT study, right?
Okay.
FIT study. Okay. So the Florida Tech has been investigating, and this part of it is Dr. Zarillo, who I talked about, who modeled the impact of the inlet, the Sebastian Inlet, and noticed that it was such a small area, 5 acres. Okay, same team is investigating the feasibility of, instead of opening an inlet at the port or opening the locks at the port, putting a one-way pump that would take water from the port and put it into kind of the North Banana River.
Okay.
So the feasibility of that was more likely than opening an inlet, which, I don't think anybody politically is in a position to okay that. There's not going to be any more inlets in Florida. That's been declared a long time ago, and they're just too expensive to maintain, and all the beach nourishment. And that's a long story. But this idea of what would happen to the ecology of the Banana River if we just started pumping a one-way flow of water into the Banana from the port.
You know, it's interesting. A little while back, I actually met. I was talking to Representative Thad Altman, and he has some map from I think like the 20s or something that shows where the water would come over where Patrick is now, and he was talking about a feasibility study on and that's probably where that came in, University of Florida, about pumping the water. And so I'm wondering, I have to get with him, but you know, I kind of try to meet with the elected officials, especially the ones been around. And look, sorry Thad, but you've been around a long time, you know, longer than me, but he's been around a long time, and he's seen that, and he's got a lot of information, and you know, that's something that hopefully that study will come back, because I believe, you know, it won't hurt. It wouldn't hurt, because you have to really kind of flush it out. You have to flush it out. As much you want to use the F word, the F bomb, but you have to. But that's just my opinion, but I'm not an expert. I'm not the biologist like you.
Yeah, I don't know what that would look like. So if we were to open it up, so the Banana is full of muck. I mean, like feet. We've got 9 feet of muck in some places in the Banana River.
Wow.
We don't want muck on our beach, so we don't want it to ever be two-way flow into the Banana, because there's a chance, right, that something's going to come in and suck that muck out into the beach. And now we've got our nearshore reefs covered in muck and our beaches, and that's going to be,
no good.
Like, we've already taken a huge tourism hit. We don't need to destroy our beaches, too. So the one-way flow idea, I just don't see it having enough energy.
Probably not.
To get 9 feet of muck off the bottom. So if it's about like muck removal, we're gonna have to take that out. It's gonna have to be an engineering vacuum muck removal project, and you know how expensive those are.
Well, you know, and fortunately, spending time in the Coast Guard, you know, on the boats, you know, you go in and out of these, you go in and out. And you see the energy of the water, how much water actually moves in and it moves out, and it would take a massive pumps. And again, like would it work? Maybe for a small area, but there's so much water in that lagoon. Right. It's going to be difficult. I personally think it's on some of the cities in the county to really, it's multiple stages. Number one, City of Melbourne's done, we haven't had any, and I'll knock on wood, we haven't had any, you know, dumps in the lagoon. We can't be putting anything in the lagoon like wastewater. We don't do anything like that. That can't be done. And I told our staff that is totally unacceptable. So we need to prepare. We've upgraded our wastewater plants to ensure that doesn't happen. That's step one. Step two is the baffle boxes. Let's make sure that we clean the stuff from going in the lagoon, and like you said, water quality water clarity is coming back. So I'm hoping the seagrass comes back, and it's not something like you said. It's something that we don't know, because that's going to be very that's going to be tragic. So
it's going to be challenging, but we'll figure it out.
But we got a few more minutes. So tell us our last pitch on the Marine Resources Council.
Thank you. I was going to say, can I
we want to
do
talk
a little pitch on what's coming up with us?
Yeah, absolutely, about some of the things that the MRC is doing.
So definitely want to encourage you to go to the website, savetheirl.org. We do every month, we do a lunch and learn, and we're now having them both at the Lagoon House, which is 1 mile south of the Melbourne Causeway, and we do them via Zoom, so you can do it as a webinar. The next one is April the 5th. I don't have my readers on. It should be a Tuesday, April 5th, and it's on organics composting, and our partners from Keep Brevard Beautiful are partnering with cities to set up giant compost bins for residents. I didn't know if you were aware of this, but he's going to be talking about this big project on organics composting in Brevard County with Keep Brevard Beautiful.
Yeah, like that.
And I think they're working with the city of West Melbourne initially. And then we've also got our next report card presentation is tomorrow night at the Environmental Learning Center in Indian River County. Where I'm on tour now.
Yeah, you're on
like
tour.
A rock star.
You're the band. Yeah. You're the band.
So I'm going county to county, and I'll present the report card and talk about their county specifically. And that's where, if you want to hear more about Indian River County, you can tune in on that one. Our next, the Lagoon Castaway Summer Camp for kids aged 8 to 13. Go to our website and register. I know we've got half of our seats already full. So if you really think your kid would love to do it, sign up now so you're not disappointed. And we are doing something called a Sea Perch, which is a really cool thing. The kids get to build a remote operated vehicle and then take it out in the lagoon and grab samples with it.
Oh, fun.
So that'll be really fun. And then, like I said,
what's the age limit?
age of 13.
Okay. Darn.
Oh, and then
How old are your kids?
No, I'm talking about me personally. I want to go.
he's a big kid. Jesse's a big kid, aren't you,
You might
Jesse?
be able to,
Yeah.
you know,
Maybe I'll be a counselor, maybe.
There you go. Camp counselor.
You can be a camp counselor.
Camp counselor Jesse. I'll start calling you that.
I've arrived.
So we're doing the report card tour. Lunch and Learns are the first Tuesday of every month, so keep looking out for that. And then our Love Our Lagoon celebration, we had to move to November 4. That's going to be our big kind of award celebration and celebrate, you know, all the good people that are working hard for the lagoon. That'll be in
Outstanding.
November.
Very fun.
Well, then also people have the ability when you go to the website to partner with the MRC and businesses and stuff like that, because as you know, this is definitely it's not free. It's something that, I mean, it costs a lot of money to run an organization, and really I can't think of a better organization that honestly helped me learn as a mayor. And again, you've always, when I needed you and I said, hey, I'm on council, I'm a new mayor, and I have this issue, you picked up the phone and you're right there. And so I fully support you, and I know the city of Melbourne does. And again, you're getting the elected officials educated on this, and so really the MRC is an amazing organization, and I can't thank you guys enough. And then we're going to get to where we need to go. We're going to get to a clean lagoon. We're going to get there with the projects going on. The money's there. Last I heard, I mean, they can't spend the money fast enough. With the project, I mean, with the construction industry and getting the projects done, I mean, everybody's like, well, why don't you do more projects? They're on the books. I think it was like 50 or something that was in engineering and in the process. It's pretty crazy, but they're getting done.
Yeah, it is. It's exciting times. Just to clarify, we are a charitable organization. We really do depend on the community to support us. We don't get, well, I can't say any money from the Save Our Indian River Lagoon tax, but we get very little, less than $10,000 a year from that tax. So a lot of people think, oh, the tax passed, you guys must be rich. I'm like, the tax passed and we don't get any of that.
There's a lot, and you know what? You can actually go to the Brevard County website. A lot of that money is still sitting in a fund. I mean, there's a lot of money there, and it's for projects. And as they come down the pike, and we have to do matching projects. Again, this Spring Creek water quality project. It's one half of it, the state. Which again, I want to thank Representative Fine and Senate Majority Leader Debbie Mayfield and Tom Wright and Dad Altman. I want to thank our Brevard delegation for pushing that. And getting at it. So I mean, to get $1.3 million from the state, and I know our team, former Senate President Mike Herodopoulos and Jerry Sansom, they worked behind the scenes and made sure this got in the budget, and they've been huge. And a couple years, like a year and a half ago, my fellow council member Mark LaRusso, he's like, hey, we need to bring this guy on because we're competing around the state. I mean, people don't realize it's like the EDC. There's 67 counties, and there's only so much money, and it's my responsibility as elected to our residents is bring as much money, state money, as I can to solve the problems here in the city of Melbourne. And Mark said, hey, let's bring in Mike Herodopoulos as well, and we tag team it, and we've gotten several $1 million over the last couple years for water quality projects. And I think hopefully this one will survive. The governor won't veto it. Again, I sent that letter today, and if that's the case, I mean, that's going to be a big win for the city of Melbourne.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's great work. And it's important. It's important for the state to partner with the local government officials to make those things happen, and to continue to support and give local governments all the tools that we need locally to do what we need to do to protect our community's quality of life.
Yeah, we have a couple questions, Rowan, and I'll answer them real quick because I try to answer the resident's question. One of the questions from Anthony: does anyone keep track of the treated wastewater and where it is discharged? I know the minute that is done, I know the city has to contact the state, and that's something that is put out in the media. You don't hear much of that lately. Well, you don't hear it in Melbourne because it doesn't happen.
Treated?
So
what do you do with your treated water? Where does it go?
Well, it's either injection well or actually reclaimed water. The state requires us to do to get rid of a large majority of reclaimed water, and we do that on our golf courses. We also sell it back to the residents, so that's something with the treated and reclaimed water. That's what we do with that. But I think maybe he meant also discharging, water. We definitely don't need to be doing that. So. Let's see what other questions. Any other questions?
And a point on if you have reclaimed water for your irrigation, you don't need to fertilize. Did I mention you don't need to fertilize? Don't need to fertilize, especially if you're on reclaimed water, because although the water's treated, it still has a lot of nitrogen and phosphorus in it.
Yeah.
The treatment takes out the bacteria, but the nitrogen is still in there, or some of it is.
And it's a big challenge for the city of Melbourne. City of Melbourne has about 58,000 water customers, and we make about 20 millions of gallons of water a day.
Wow.
And think about that for our residents: 20 million gallons, 22 million, 18 million, depends on the weekend or showers. But
I was going to say that's just my kids.
I don't think you would allow that. I think you'd be like, turn that water off. In the Coast Guard, they made
6 minutes.
They made us take sea showers where you got in, you put the water on, you turned it off, you soaked up, then you turn it back on because you make your own water when you're out on the ocean. So I see you being that kind of person. Like, turn it off, and you would probably be a bear. Be like, what are you doing?
Just walk in.
Turn it off. That's great. Well, again, I want to thank everybody today. This is one that's very important. This will also lead into next week where we're going to discuss low impact development with Chris and some of the hopefully some of the things we're going to bring to the city of Melbourne. Again, like Pineapple Avenue. If you see the boxes are coming into downtown Melbourne, the plant boxes, those aren't really just for looks. Those are engineered and designed to keep water where they are.
I can't wait to see the new plant boxes in downtown.
Yeah, those are nice. And I have right now the city staff. They're working on permeable pavers. Where you see a lot of this where before it used to be just pour concrete. We got to get away from that. We have to allow for that. They make like that concrete mesh where the grass can go through.
Right.
That needs to be some of the surfaces. So we're going to make those changes, and we're going to make them soon under my leadership, and we're going to get this right. And the experts have been in my ear, and I'm going to listen. So
that's fantastic, and I look forward to downtown Melbourne because I live downtown.
Oh yeah, yeah, you live downtown. Hey, you chose to live in Melbourne. I appreciate that.
I do too.
So anybody got anything else on this segment? I think we kind of went a whole hour. That was pretty quick.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is exciting. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you both for
thank
having
you
me.
and the MRC and my fellow council and the state and everybody. And see you next week on low impact development. I want to thank everybody for tuning in.
It's going to be a great one. Save the IRL.
Yeah, that's right. SaveTheIRL.org is where they could visit more. Okay, so we have that disclosed. And, of course, thank you all for tuning in. Tune in next week, and please share us where you watch us. Thank you so much, guys.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.